What do we know about Down syndrome and how it's like to raise a kid with trisomy 21? This story dedicated to the family who was looking for a better society for their son and found it. About migration way from Ukraine to Great Britain in this video. This is Vlad Glushkivsky. His relatives call him Vladik. He's 16 years old and he studies at St. Philip's School in London. His favorite activities outside of school are to shop for various toy cars in one of the stores and pay for them at the self-checkout. He also likes to visit the barber shop once every 2 weeks. Vladik, say it again. Do you like it? Yes? But this was not always the case. The Glushkivsky family moved from Ukraine to England 3 years ago. As Vlad's mother Galina says, moving to another country has been her dream since the birth of her son, as he was born with Down syndrome. She explains that the reason for the move was society.
When I was a young mother, my son was about 6 months old. I was walking, he was in a pram, and all the people looked at me with such a look. Poor, how unhappy she is. Although I didn't feel unhappy, I have such a child, like all children. I love my child. Or when I was traveling in the public transport and half of the passengers on the bus looked at me with such a sympathy.
Galina felt more disappointment from those around her when the boy was 7 months old and needed to have heart surgery.
When we were in the hospital in Kiev to have an operation, there were other mothers with their children. They told me, "Why are you doing the operation? You don't see that he's sick? This is not a fully fledged child." I was told to leave everything as it is, let him die, and they recommended me to give birth to another child.
I do have an awareness of what life was like under the Soviet Union and what the attitudes were there to people who have disabilities. And I know what sort of advice people were given. And actually, that was also what happened here. Probably 40, 50 years ago. So, there is that sort of difference, I think, in terms of time. And we have changed and things have improved, but it's taken a very, very long time. We had carried out a very big campaign to stop people using the word Mongol, which was the term that used to be used many, many years ago in the UK for people who have Down syndrome. By the time I joined the organization, that word had almost gone totally.
Down syndrome is not a disease, it's a genetic condition. According to the statistic from the World Health Organization, 1 in 700 babies is born with Down syndrome in the world. A genetic malfunction occurs regardless of the parents' lifestyle, health or habits, but the risk of having a baby with Down syndrome may be higher if the parents are older.
It is just something that happens during conception. So it results in most cases, well, in all cases, with there being extra genetic material, so extra copies of chromosome 21 in the cells in the body. In most cases, a person with Down syndrome will have an extra copy of chromosome 21 in every cell in their body. In some small number of cases, people will only have that extra genetic material in some cells in their body. That doesn't mean that people can't learn. It means that it will take people longer to learn new information and new skills, etc.
The second reason for the immigration of the Ukrainian family was the education system. Galina says that the Ukrainian school system is very good and strong, but it's not adapted for children with disabilities.
Оце з 9 до 6 години вони майже весь час за партами вони або.
From 9 to 6 o'clock, children spend all the time at their desks. Read, write, or do their homework. They have physical activities, there are a few everyday social skills lessons, but in percentage terms, there are much less such everyday social skills lessons than in an English school. And another reason, in Ukraine, education for children with disabilities is only up to 15 years old. If a child is included in the framework of the state program, he can continue to study. But my son was very bad at studying. He could only read, copy letters, and count numbers to 20. Therefore, we understood that our son has no future after 15 years old.
Olena Savchuk, a head teacher of the Ukrainian School for Children with Special Needs, confirms that children with Down syndrome in Ukraine do not have enough social subject in school that may help them to become independent in the future.
Про отримання професії важко говорити, хоча б навичок якихось, так, правда?
It is difficult to talk about getting a profession, at least getting some professional skills. There are already many problems here. Firstly, in our institution, there is an insufficient financial base. It would be worth improving it. Special workshops for social orientation should be created. For example, it can be a model of a kitchen or a laundry room, so that the child can learn to cook or to wash things on his own. This is something that should be organized.
Vladislav studies at St. Philip's Post-16 School, and if we look at the curriculum on the school's website, we can see it's more focused on learning skills that will come in handy in independent life. Also, part of the curriculum is aimed to the opportunity to gain working experience in the local community or at school.
So the school day starts at 8:50 and we finish at 3:15. The students have 6 lessons that are all 45 minutes in length, with a break after lesson 2 and lunchtime between lesson 4 and 5. All students have a form tutor, and that will be the person that you as parents will contact if you have any queries on a day-to-day basis. We have a range of after-school clubs on offer. We offer 2 different options every evening on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and we usually have a sporty option and a more indoor option.
В школі є собаки.
They have dogs at school. They have rabbits, chickens. They have a vegetable garden where the children work. Teachers and pupils go shopping on Wednesdays. They learn how to cook. That is, they learn the skills necessary for life. And in 2 years, I think, Vlad will be taught how to cook. I will also teach him at home, and maybe then he will go to college and become a kitchen assistant.
Technically, children in the UK can be educated up to age 25, but this is extremely rare, says Stuart Mills. After children with Down syndrome reach the age of 18, the most common option is to stay with their parents at home while receiving support from social services run by local authorities. Financial support is very individual and depends on the person and their condition of health.
It could be that instead of a service, they give your parent a sum of money that they can then manage to meet your need, and they might pay for a personal assistant who comes in to the family home, takes the person out to go swimming, I don't know, to play tennis or whatever. But if, say, it's somebody who's living in a house with support, it might be that a person or people are coming in at different times in the day to make sure everything is running okay, to make sure people are, properly washed and dressed.
On the Down Syndrome Association website can be seen what benefits children and people with Down syndrome can get. This is all individual. One of the common benefits is universal credit, which also covers the rent of housing for people living independently. For example, the Glushkivsky family does not use any benefits since both parents work and are soon planning to buy their property. At the moment, Vlad has a privilege of free travel on transport, and he's happy to show us how he uses his Oyster card. Покажи мені карточку. А з другого боку, з другого боку.
Покажи іншою стороною, ось так.
Question is, do you think I'll get my the 4:32 train and it's 20 to 12?
Stuart Mill says that although social services and financial support are well developed in the UK, this system does not lag in comparison with other countries, but also highlights several disadvantages.
Lack of money and lack of resources. But I would say that's probably closely followed. So although I said I think things have improved enormously, I guess the second barrier or challenge that people have is probably always going to be lack of understanding. But I think primarily for people at the moment, it's lack of resources and lack of money is an issue.
After contacting the Department of Education by phone, information was provided via email about high needs funding for young people and children with disabilities up to 25 years. According to the information, we can see that in summer 2021 was announced that high needs funding will increase by £780 million in the next financial year. This will bring the total high needs budget to £8.9 billion. To find out more about the local budget, we took as an example the council in the area where the family lives and the school is located. It's Surrey. The official website showed that the budget for 2020-2021 for education was £65 million. The website also provides information on the 5-year capital program, which includes an investment of £31 million in special education needs and disabilities. No matter what, answering the question, whatever the Glushkivsky family would like to return to Ukraine one day, Galina says.
Ні разу про це не пошкодували, щоб ви розуміли, ні разу.
We have never regretted leaving Ukraine. When Vlad hears the phrase, "We are going to Ukraine," he says absolutely no. He remembers how other kids on the street mocked him, what bad things they taught him. It is embarrassing and annoying to talk about this, but it is true.
Lilia Volenko for Brunel University, London.